Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Geeky podcast. I'm Krishna Mesta, nutrition researcher, R&D division at iThrive. And in a previous episode, we discussed about what coconut sugar is and its metabolic impact. So, if you guys haven't heard that video, I would urge you guys to go and check out that video as well. So, for our today's discussion, I have Manali Chindarkar, who is the Chief of R&D Department at iThrive. Hello, Manali.
Hi Krishna, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah. So, are you excited for today's discussion?
Yes, I am.
And so, the topic which I have to discuss today is kind of has gained a limelight in this recent year, and the topic is xenoestrogen. So, the obvious question which I have for you is, what are xenoestrogens?
Yes, I totally agree to it, and as you said, it is gaining limelight. So, I think 20 or 30 years before, it was not famous or people didn't know about xenoestrogens, but now it is gaining importance and it is a matter of concern, and we need to pay attention to it. So, to answer your question, xenoestrogens are they are also known as environmental estrogens. So they mimic, okay, so the chemical structure is quite similar to that of the estrogens present in our bodies. So as we know that estrogen is predominantly found in women and it is also there in men's bodies for other purposes. So what it does is, it is because the structure is so similar, it competes with the competes with the estrogen's role in our body. So there are, for any compound in our body, there are receptors who bind to that compound and then the activity is performed. So when xenoestrogens, what they do is they bind to the receptor which ideally should bind to the estrogen in our body. So it takes up that space. So then our body thinks, even if there is no high levels of estrogen in the body, let's say we have this much amount of estrogen being produced and then we have additional xenoestrogen. So our body thinks, it cannot identify the exact difference, it thinks that there is a lot of estrogen there. So then it leads to many abnormalities. So the high levels of estrogen also could give rise to estrogen related disorders, which could be endometriosis, where the blood vessels, instead of growing in the uterus, they grow elsewhere in the body, or they could give rise to prostate cancer in men or breast cancer. And it also gives rise to PCOS, which is again commonly found prevalent in these days. So again, like one caution or one factor why we need to take care of the estrogen deposition in our body. It affects the aquatic life. So when we talk about fish or any organisms in the aquatic life, so they affect their health also, quite similar to how it affects humans, and it starts accumulating over time. So as the exposure increases, the accumulation of xenoestrogens in the aquatic organisms' bodies increases, and hence it's a threat to their health and also to those who consume the aquatic organisms.
Yeah, so basically it's kind of bioaccumulating in the term which we say in environmental science as well.
Yes.
So, like rightly that you mentioned, they are causing havoc in our environmental system as well. So, what compounds usually have these, or what compounds fall under xenoestrogens?
Right. So the most commonly used, I think, is plastics. So plastics contain PCBs, and then there are pollutants, there are toxins which are there in our day-to-day products, personal care products that we use. So it may be parabens, the lotions, perfumes that we use, or the fertilizers, pesticides used for agriculture, and also the insecticides. So all these are the sources of xenoestrogens. And as I mentioned, the sources, you might think that we are exposed to it almost daily. So how great its impact would be on our health.
Yeah, even I, while doing some research, I came across that DDT, which you mentioned, that is dichloro, diphenyl, trichloroethane, is...
Yes, it's the insecticide.
Yeah, insecticide. So it is causing occupational or industrial threat or hazard to people who are actually exposed to it. Like mostly men who are exposed to it, their sperm count has decreased to a lot of extent. So it is causing harm to our body as well, right?
Yes, yes. And as you mentioned, the sperm count, so it is observed that it affects the reproductive health. So as I said, aquatic life, the fishes as well as the humans. So the effects found are mainly on the reproductive health. So when we talk about men, it is found in the form of low sperm count. If we talk about women, especially during pregnancy, like in pregnant women, if they are exposed to xenoestrogens, it could lead to tumor, and in their children, it could lead to reproductive abnormalities. So, as we also observe that nowadays, girls, like they achieve menarche, that is the first onset of menstruation, quite early in their life. So, the average menarche age has, it is decreasing, and women are getting periods earlier than usual. So, that is also a result of the estrogen accumulation.
Okay, so like this, like I would say, like from past 20 years or something, we are actually seeing like girls and even men, they are suffering from reproductive health as well. So it could,
Absolutely.
the one reason could be this.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And I would like to mention that there is one medicine, so DES, so it is actually a potent estrogen. So it acts like a estrogen, and it is given to pregnant women to, prevent miscarriages. So again, because it is a estrogen, it is harmful in a way for the women. And if the woman is pregnant with female child, okay, so the female child is also prone to develop tumor.
Okay, so the DES medicine which is there, it's kind of acting like a xenoestrogen,
Xenoestrogen.
and it is again going to have some intergenerational
Right, to the next
effect as
generation
well.
as well. Yes, and even in the women who are taking it, they are more prone to, like, there are chances of them developing UTIs. So
Oh.
again, like, it is affecting the reproductive health.
Yeah. So since we are kind of surrounded with this, like the xenoestrogens, so how we can actually prevent them or keep these xenoestrogens at bay from ourselves?
Sure. And before moving on to that part, I would like to mention that not only reproductive health, but there are effects observed on the central nervous system, that is the brain health, and also on the cardiovascular health. So, if if people are exposed to xenoestrogens quite early in their lifespan, then they start developing cognitive imbalances and behavioral modifications, and it is in the negative form, so there is deterioration of the cognitive development. So it's not only reproductive health but other organ systems also. And so the solutions, or how do we manage it, because if we think about it, people might think that it is inevitable, like we are constantly exposed to it, but there are many ways. So to start with, if you're talking about the personal care products, so there's always ingredient list available on the product behind it. So we should be mindful, we should be intentional about choosing the right ingredients. If there are high parabens, sulfates, there are like SLS, SLES, quite high in shampoos. So there are like botanical or natural herbal products available which do not have these toxins, and there are also some herbal products which claim that they are 100% botanical, but still they have these SLAES. So we need to like be careful about the ingredient list, and there are options available, it is not impossible. So we can choose, and we can select our products accordingly, free from any toxins, because it's like everyday exposure and regular exposure. So it is like, again, the bioaccumulation part, so it keeps depositing in our body. And other thing would be, as I said, about pesticides, fertilizers, insecticides. So that is why we recommend having organic groceries, right? So fresh fruits, vegetables, also seasonal, because those are not seasonal, they need more of pesticides to keep the fruit fresh. So that is why I choose organic. Then plastic, as you already know, that we should minimize the use of plastic containers. We can use glass or stainless steel in spite of that. And I also came across the thing that the PCBs, which are high in plastic, they are even higher in metal containers. So even that is not a good choice. And then I looked up if steel is different from metal to confirm. So yes, it's an alloy. It is artificially made, so it is not that much. It doesn't have that much of metal present in it, and metal is like 100%. It is naturally obtained. So So it is again, there are risks of being highly accumulated with PCBs. So glass and stainless steel is a good option. And if you go in restaurants, if you think there's a tendency that I have the tendency, if the food is, remaining, I take it back home because I don't want to waste the food. So at such cases, you can carry your own containers, glass containers along with you instead of them giving you in a plastic package. So that is how you can add little tips in your day-to-day lives. And I think we should be intentional and start implementing these habits in our lives.
Yeah, like you mentioned about like we need to look into the ingredient list of the
Yes.
personal care products as well. Now people are getting this idea to check the food ingredient list, right?
Yes,
That they should be even more mindful to
totally.
read the ingredient list which is present in the personal care products as well.
Yes.
And even this point, the last point which you mentioned about the food which we take at home, the remaining food, like they usually give this in aluminum packed
Yes, again.
like the foil or something, that again could be a greater source of xenoestrogen in our system, and again the bioaccumulation part and all the cycle will keep on repeating and repeating.
Yes, and these are small changes. I think it gives a lot of value to our life in the long term. So we should obviously go ahead and do it and not be, quite lazy about this. Like, कौन करेगा, क्यों करना है? Let it be.
Yes, thank you, Manali, for touching this topic this deeply and actually letting the audience know like what are xenoestrogen, how it affects our body, and how we can actually prevent this or like prevent the exposure of xenoestrogen in our system. So, anything which you like to conclude to end this podcast?
Yes, so as I said, like be intentional and choose your products and the things that you're exposed to wisely. And like when you do it in terms of allergies, if you're allergic to some food, you obviously go and check the ingredient list of the food or the product. So likewise, this is another aspect, xenoestrogen, which is a lifestyle thing. So be mindful about that. And I think we have a blog on this, which could help
Yeah.
like give more insights. So you can go ahead and read that blog too.
Yes. So thank you so much guys to listening to our podcast. If you like do like, share and subscribe to our Geeky podcast on YouTube as well. And if you have any questions like which you want us guys to actually talk about it or maybe dive deep into it, do add that in the comment section.
Yes,
Hope to-
thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all.